present is merely a prologue for China's Christians, and that's not good news. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. This is Breakpoint. Right before the new year, a Chinese court sentenced Early Rain Church pastor Wang to 9 years in prison for, quote, inciting subversion of state power and illegal business activities. In addition to prison, Wang is deprived of his political rights for 3 years, and his personal property, approximately $7,200 worth, will be confiscated. 13 years ago, Wang was in the White House discussing the state of religious freedom in China with then-President George W. Bush. Today, he's a symbol of just how perilous it is for religious minorities in China. In fact, given new regulations about to be imposed on religious communities beginning February the 1st, 2020, Wang's imprisonment is only a prelude to what lies ahead for Chinese Christians and other religious minorities. As summarized by the Catholic website Asia News, religious organizations must spread the principles and policies of the Chinese Communist Party, as well as national laws, regulations, rules to religious personnel and religious citizens, educating religious personnel and religious citizens to support the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party, supporting the socialist system, adhering to and following the path of socialism with Chinese characteristics. Now, if all that sounds like China's now forcing religious organizations to be organs of the Communist Party, that's because China's now forcing religious organizations to be organs of the Communist Party. As a Catholic priest told Asia News, in practice, your religion no longer matters. If you're Buddhist or Taoist or Muslim or Christian, the only religion allowed is the faith of the Chinese Communist Party. Asia News summed up the new regulations this way, quote, every aspect of the life of religious communities, from formation, gatherings, to annual and daily projects, is subject to approval by the government's Religious Affairs Department. Now, back in November, I argued on Breakpoint that what drives the repression of religious minorities and democracy activists in China is the Communist Party's insecurity about its own weaknesses. For example, contrast the way Beijing is treating Christians with how they treat technology giant Huawei. Setting aside the inherent contradiction of billionaires from a socialist system, companies like Huawei enjoy freedoms that churches can only dream about. In its battle with the U.S., Huawei has publicly distanced itself from the Communist Party and insisted that its equipment has, quote, never been used and will never be used to spy for Beijing. Now, the point's not whether or not you believe Huawei, which, for the record, you shouldn't. It's that Beijing does not require Huawei to toe any of the same ideological lines as religious organizations. Why? Well, because firms like Huawei and other Chinese e-commerce giants like Alibaba do not threaten the legitimacy of the Communist Party rule. But Pastor Wang does. Socialism with Chinese characteristics apparently can handle a man who makes billions of dollars, but not a man who claims Jesus Christ is Lord. As Time magazine said bluntly, China feels threatened by the spread of Christianity, as they should. There are significantly more Christians in China than Communist Party members, even though the latter comes with material benefits and security, while the former comes with increasing persecution. As Willie Law of the Chinese University of Hong Kong told Time, the Chinese government is afraid that more people are turning to the church for their spiritual needs and not to official nationalism and patriotism. In other words, Beijing's attempt to co-opt churches for its own ends is a tacit admission of its own weakness. Unfortunately, this weakness makes them more dangerous, not less. Since 2020 promises to be such a hard year for our Christian brethren, they should be at the top of our concerns and certainly our prayer list, starting with Wang. Given the increasingly dire situations for Christians in China, it's particularly fitting, and I'm honored to announce that the 2020 William Wilberforce Award will be given to none other than Pastor Bob Fu, who's founder and president of China Aid. The ceremony will take place at this year's Wilberforce Weekend Conference, May 14th through the 17th. Come hear from and honor this courageous Chinese Christian leader, and learn from other leading Christian thinkers like Os Guinness, Lee Strobel, Obianuju Akiyosha, and Andy Crouch. Visit wilberforceweekend.org to register. That's wilberforceweekend.org. For Breakpoint, I'm John Stonestreet.